Okay. Good afternoon. Today we are working on PO17. I can solve equations using multiplication and division. So yesterday's objective, we were working on the adding and subtracting and the opposites and how we use opposite operations and the fact families and the logic. Now we're going to be looking at that with multiplication and division. So solving an equation with multiplication and division is a lot like adding or subtracting, the type of steps. Obviously the operation is different, but the steps are similar. So let's walk through the three methods. Again, just refresh our memories and see how it looks with multiplying and dividing. So we have, our example is 8 to n equals 32. What operation is happening in that equation? David?
Multiplication.
Multiplication, because we know when a number is right next to that letter, it means we're multiplying. They just don't put in the multiplying. This is proper math, right? When we see this, it's the same as saying 8 times n equals 32. We just don't put that multiplication sign in there. Same thing if we have parentheses, we know it means multiply, we just don't put it in there. So when there's a number right next to the parentheses, when there's a number right next to the variable, it means we multiply it. So logically, what question are we asking with that? Eleanor?
8 times what number is 32?
Exactly. 8 times what number is 32? Now, when it is a simple equation like this, we know our multiplication facts, we can think of that answer right away and not have to work out our problems. As we get into our math, it gets more and more complicated. This year, next year, high school, college, it will get more and more complicated. So are we going to be able to do logic every time? No. Easy for the beginning. Oh yeah, I can just look at it and know the answer. It will not always be this easy. But for today's objective, just like for yesterday's objective, we start off with the easier ones so we can learn how to do the harder ones. Opposite operation. So the opposite of multiplying by 8 is dividing by 8. Dividing both sides of the equal sign. Remember, we have to balance it, right? We talked about that. We have to balance. So multiply both sides of the equal sign by 8 will get the variable by itself. So let's see what that looks like. If we have 8n equals 32, if we divide by 8, we divide by 8. So I always put it underneath the numbers. Just like with the order of operations, this is the one I will be a stickler on. Do it this way. Every year I have kids who think they know better than me. Every year I have kids that say, I can do it this way, Mrs. Gambino. It's fine. And then we get to the spring and they really struggle because they're no longer setting up their stuff the way I showed them, and so they're getting confused and making mistakes. So when I tell us when we do order of operations, we do it like this. When we do opposite operations, we do it like this. It's for a good reason, because I know what's coming. And last spring, I'm telling you, I had kids who were not happy because they really struggled. Do it this way now, and it will help you in the spring. They'll go, yeah, this is how we do it. Okay. So even though it's simple and easy now, do it this way so we're setting up those good habits so it's easy when we get to the harder stuff. So what is 8 divided by 8? Christina?
0.
It is not 0.
1.
1. So if we did 8 divided by 8 and we put a 1 there, what is 1 times any number? Okay. That number. right? So 1 times a number is just the number. So when we see a variable by itself, they don't put that 1 in front of it. They just put the variable, because 1 times a number is the number. You don't have to put the 1 in front of it. So 8 divided by 8 is just n, because it's actually 1n. And we don't put the 1 in front of it, because we don't need to. It's extra work. So proper math says when you have a variable, we just know that there's a 1 in front of it, because 1 times a number is the number. So n equals 32 divided by 8. What is 32 divided by 8, Harper? 4. So this is the part that always tricks people up. 8 divided by 8 is 1, so it's 1n. We just have to remember, we don't show the 1. We just show n. It means 1 times n. It comes in handy to remember this little fact in a few objectives. When we start combining variables, we're going to need to know that. Not important today for us to know this. It will be important coming up. Christina.
We have to write one instead of the other.
So if it's 8n equals 32, and I divide it by 8, I just call it n, because that's proper math. We don't ever put a 1 in front of the variable. It's redundant, it's not necessary, and so math is all about keeping it simple. Okay, so we don't ever put a 1 in front of it. On a test, if you put the 1 in front of it, am I going to mark it wrong? No, because it means the same thing. So I don't mark wrong if we put the 1 there, but there will be lots of times where we see the variable without the 1 in front of it, and sometimes people get confused, and they go, well, what do I do? You draw the 1 in there to help you know what you're doing, okay? That'll come in handy to know in a few objectives. All right, last one, fact families. So we did fact families with adding and subtracting. What would be the fact families with multiplying and dividing? David?
For 8n would be 8 times n,
Equals
32.
32.
and then we have n times 8, which equals 32. And then we have 32 divided by n, gives us 8. And then we also have 32 divided by 8, which also gives us 8.
Which one of these fact families is going to be the most useful for us, Hadley? 32 divided by 8. That's the math we have to do. That's the fact family we need to know. If it's 8n equals 32, we need to know that the opposite of that would be 32 divided by 8 equals n. So when we're doing our fact family part, we only have to write the fact family that we need. I'm not going to make you write them all. Okay? See how it's very similar to the adding and subtracting? So I'm not really giving you anything huge and new today. So as with any equation, once you find the value for the variable, plug it into the original equation to make sure it works. Okay, so you take that answer, n equals 4. We put 4 back into it, so we say 8 times 4 equals 32. We balance out our equation. Are they equivalent? 32 equals 32? Yes, it's a true equation. So you always take the answer and you put it back into your equation and solve for it. Did I get the right answer? Okay, that's how we check our work. So let's see what else this page says. So using two methods from above, each time solve for the variable in the equation, just like yesterday's objective. So if I look at 9n equals 90, what could be one of my ways to solve this? Christina. So tell me what to write.
9 times another is
So 9 times what number? So remember, we're asking that question. 9 times what number is 90? Logically, we can say, I know it's 9 times 10 is 90, right? What would be a second way? So 9 times 10 is what number? I know logically that it is 10. What would be another way, Claire?
90 divided by 9.
If I do my fact families, I know 9n equals 90, so fact family 90 divided by 9. And so I know that n equals 10. And like we talked about yesterday, doesn't matter if it's 10 equals n or n equals 10. Doesn't matter the order you put it in. We can flip sides and that's fine. We only have to do 2 ways, but I want to show us how to do the third way. So opposite operations, 9n equals 90. This is 9 times n. So opposite operations mean I divide. So if it's times by 9, now I'm dividing by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1. 1 times n is just n. 90 divided by 9 is 10. I got 10 for each of my answers. Am I done? Why am I not done? I need to check my work. So now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to take that 10 and I'm going to put it into my original problem. 9 times 10 equals 90. So I solve for it. 9 times 10 is 90 equals 90. Yes, it is a true equation. They equal each other. Let's look at our next one. N divided by 5 equals 9. Second? We could. What would I do opposite?
Multiply 9 times 5.
Yeah, because it's n divided by 5, so I need to multiply both sides by 5. If I'm dividing by 5 and then I multiply by 5, they equal out, right? 5 divided by 5 is 1. 9 divided by 9 is 1. So if I'm dividing by the 9, then I multiply, or 5. I'm dividing by the 5 and I multiply by 5, it equals out. If I had 30 divided by 5 would be 6. 6 times 5 is 30. So I know that they're equaling out to be that 1. So they cancel out, and I'm left with just that 1n. Divide and multiply will balance out. 9 times 5 is 45. I could do my question. What number divided by 5 is 9? So I know my multiplication facts. I know a number divided by 5 is 9. I know it's 45. And the last one, my fact families. Instead of doing n divided by 5 equals 9, what would be the fact family that would help us? Any guesses? What's the fact family we're looking for, Claire?
9 times 5 equals 10.
9 times 5 equals n. And I know 9 times 5 is 45. Oops, just circling my answer. Then I go back and I put it into my problem. 45 divided by 5 equals 9. 45 divided by 5 is 9. 9 equals 9. So I check my work. If I look at that last one, what is the operation happening there? N over 12 equals 7. That's a fraction. What operation would that be? Tessa? That fraction bar means divide. So you can picture it as that division symbol. Fraction bar means divide. That is the operation happening. So we have n divided by 12 equals 7. what do I have to do to find the answer? Vivi? Do the opposite. So instead of dividing by 12, what am I going to do? Harper? Multiply by 12. Okay, that fraction bar, just remember, fraction bars mean divide. So the opposite would be to multiply. If I multiplied this by 12, I would have 12n over 12. So that's saying 12 divided by 12, right? So it simplifies down to 1n. So when I multiply by 12, I'm multiplying that top numerator by that number. And then I divide it by that denominator. And then on the other side, I'm multiplying by 12. So 7 times 12 is that 84. That makes sense? Write a second way for this one. Do your logic question, do a fact family, and check it. Make sure we did our math right. On the second page, pick your favorite one. Logic, fact family, opposite operations, whichever one works for each individual problem. You're not stuck with just one the whole time. Solve each equation and show your work and show how you've checked your answer. Remembering that the fraction bar means divide. Don't forget to pay attention to negative signs. They matter. Remember when we're outside of a parentheses, what operation is that? Multiplication. So if it's right next to the variable, it means multiply. If it's right next to the parentheses, it means multiply. And then we have our two word problems. Same thing we're doing. Okay, don't be confused by the words. We're just doing the same thing. Any questions on today's assignment? Okay, we're going to quietly work on this. When you are finished, you can cross it off in your assignment notebook. If at the end of class you are not finished, you are circling it in your assignment notebook so we don't forget to do it. Remember, we have math packets, we've got Mysteries of the Rosary. A lot of us still have our puzzle piece. Oh, nope, before we do the puzzle piece for social studies, you can work on the shield of faith from theology that we got yesterday. So lots of stuff for us to work on. So this is a quiet work time. If you are watching this at home, I hope you are well, and I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.